Aristotelian Essentialism. I am Jason Holtshaw.
And I'm Will Tanner.
What is essentialism? Essentialism is anything that asserts that things in the world have an essential nature. Aristotelian essentialism is that humans are rational animals. This is what he thought the essential quality of humans was. What is the final cause of rational actions? Aristotle thinks the final cause of human action is eudaimonia. Aristotle thinks that there must be a final cause because it is the function of a human being. Aristotle describes this by saying that the function of a lyre player is to play a lyre, just as a human being is meant to live with eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is living a fulfilled life and is a good thing for the thing that's living it. It's more than happiness, because happiness is such a subjective term. Happiness is different to every person. Like taking ecstasy. Might feel happy, but it's not the true happiness that comes from living life well, like Aristotle meant. Eudaimonia for humans consists of pleasure, knowledge, and honor, or relating to the external good, the soul, and the body. For other animals, it would consist of whether their purpose is that which gives them fulfillment. For example, a hunting dog is happiest while its instincts are allowed to kick in while on the hunt. What does essential mean? Essential is what is necessary to a thing and distinctive to a thing. An example that Aristotle uses is that humans are rational animals. It sets us apart from dogs and other animals of nature. We see this in Metaphysics 980a. Our example we used was a praying mantis. After it mates, the female kills the male. This is what distinguishes it from other stick-shaped green bugs. It doesn't change the essential nature if a human who is undeveloped the potential that it has to be something, even if it doesn't live up to it, is still what its nature is. For another organism other than a human, you can see that a bird that has a deformed wing, or that is missing a wing, rendering it unable to fly, is still in essence a bird, even without one of its main qualities. A non-biological natural object we used to describe this was an acorn. An acorn is an oak tree seed because it is supposed to grow into an oak tree. Even when it doesn't grow into a tree, it is still part of its nature that is a seed for an oak tree. What matters is the end towards which it strives, not if it gets derailed.
So I'll be picking up. So why do we need to know what is essential to a human being in order to know what actions are right or wrong? It's important to know what's essential so you know if that thing's actions are with or against its nature. As Aristotle would say, the good is what accords with a thing's virtue and nature. So our example was a tiger killing someone out of instinct in its habitat is far different than a serial killer just killing someone for pleasure. Because for a tiger, it's just part of the animal's nature. When it sees a threat, it attacks. Whereas for a serial killer, that's going against a human's nature and internal resistance against killing people and just killing them. So now switching to the Nussbaum article, which is included in the description. How does Aristotelian essentialism help us understand the basic framework for contemporary development economics is what the article is about. And in it, Nussbaum gives 10 capabilities. The first one, so the first one is human life. So people die, their bodies break down, things can happen, but they try and avoid it their whole life when possible. An example for that is fear. We all have fears, phobias, whatever, and most are derived from the fact that death is a possibility. So that's human life. The next is good health, and That's that their body is meant to live well, and there are four main things Nussbaum states that allows the body to continue thriving and living. These are sustenance, like food, water, shelter, sexual desire and the ability for that to happen, and the ability to move. And our example for this and what distinguishes good health in the human body is that you can distinguish a human and whether they're healthy or not, generally anywhere in the world, no matter where they're from. Capability 3 is the capacity for pleasure and pain. So all humans experience pleasure and pain is viewed as bad and is avoided when possible. Our example is that hospitals have to give painkillers for surgeries, or else people never go through the procedures because they'd simply be too painful. They can feel it. The next is cognitive capability, or perceiving and imagining. So all humans think rationally, retain knowledge, and think or imagine beyond the limits of what is known. Our example to explain this is like works of fiction, or works of fiction, because they're not real. The author had to create them, and sometimes they're even impossible in reality. But because we're humans and able to think through and perceive things, those stories are still perceivable and understandable. The next quality is early infant development. So every human starts their lives as a baby who's completely dependent on an adult, can't do anything on their own. However, we all grow up and mature um, over the courses of our lives. Um, For example, is that babies are always with adults. You never just see babies functioning in society like other humans, except for in that cartoon movie. But it'd be weird if they were, because humans don't act that way. It's not in their nature. Quality number 6 is practical reason. So humans are rational, intelligent beings who like to think and act for ourselves as individuals. Our example for this is looking at authoritarian states. Those states usually fail because humans need to be able to think, act for themselves in order to function effectively. Otherwise, everything will just fall apart. The next capability is affiliation with other human beings. So people have a natural connection to other humans and prefer to be with humans rather than other species, although dogs are pretty great. And our example is that we feel much differently when a human dies compared to when a cow dies. Like you may feel sad for the cow, but it's much different than when a human dies. And another example to show the affiliation aspect of that is that humans create clubs where they're able to spend time with other human beings with similar interests because everyone has that innate desire to, or most people have that innate desire to be with other people. Um, next capability is relatedness to other species and nature. So people care about the environment and the animals around them and are able to recognize the beauty of both. A great example of this would be the Environmental Protection Agency. And another would be the national parks. People travel all the way across the country to go look at beautiful landmarks and animals in those national parks because of that relatedness to other species in nature. Next capability is humor and play. So all humans have things that make them feel happy and make them laugh. These may be different to every person, but almost everyone has something in life that makes them happy. Our example would be hobbies or other things that people just enjoy doing, like fly fishing, golf, what have you. Final capability is separateness. So we are all individual beings who can only account for ourselves. And while we may be connected with other humans and species, at the end of the day, we are only ourselves and no one else. Our example is that we can only represent ourselves in the world. I, for example, cannot take another person's identity and use it as my own, legally, at least. Moving on. So Aristotelian essentialism and Martha Nussbaum. First off is what makes these capability-lists essentialist? And they're essentialist because they show the essence of being human, a human's essential metaphysical characteristic, which is that we're rational animals. They either show the animal aspect or the rational thought aspect of human beings. Then what makes them Aristotelian? So they're Aristotelian because they show that humans are rational animals, kind of tying back into that, which is what Aristotle states is the defining characteristic of humans. And it's just kind of to degrees. So essentialist, it's what humans are, it's defining them, and then Aristotelian, it's showing that they're rational animals as that distinction. And all the capabilities show that they're rational animals. So Aristotelian essentialism. So why can't a right or virtuous action be articulated in terms of exceptionalist generalities? And that's because every situation is different in terms of the problem, needs of the people, cultural aspects of the people, and general context of the issues, because those qualities create distinctive problems that require the response to be specifically tailored to the essence and distinctive features of that problem. Our example from this comes from Nussbaum and her description of the smallpox problem in India, and how people didn't want to give the vaccine because it would eradicate the cult of Sitala Devi, which locals prayed to for healing and safety from the disease. But the proper response of providing the vaccine had to take into account the terrible epidemic and the culture, and realize that deaths were worse than losing the prayer in a small part of their culture. And then our personal example was the war on drugs. And the government tried combating drug use like it combated other smuggling problems in the past through purely law enforcement strategy. Whereas if they had focused on the main problem, which was addiction, then perhaps it would have been more successful. So how does Aristotelian essentialism help explain why it's not enough to measure GDP to see if people are flourishing? And that's because Aristotle thought that eudaimonia was more than just happiness and wasn't only centered around money and wealth. He would say that there are more things that need to be taken into account for true fulfillment, and these would be things such as education, relationships, quality of life, human rights, personal morale, things like that that really help define people. So that's our project on Aristotelian essentialism.